Hi everybody, thank you so much for watching this video and for all the support on the last video I put out regarding my experiences in special ed at Fairfax County Public Schools. I really appreciate it. I actually wanted to address one of the comments, which I kind of left out of the video, but there was a commenter saying, in regard to the talkies that were distributed as behavior incentives, they're loaded with Red 40. And Red 40 increases autism symptoms, it increases ADHD symptoms, and not only Red 40, but all of them, all these petroleum-based dyes, which we should definitely not be putting in our bodies and definitely not in the bodies of neurodiverse children, because these petroleum-based food dyes are neurotoxins. And I just wanted to say thank you for the commenter for mentioning this, because yeah, it shouldn't be given to any kid, but especially not special kids, and especially not as behavior incentives. My mom never let me eat those types of foods at home, and so I'd hide the wrappers under my bed. And I remember coming home from school one day and seeing all the Cheetos bags laid out on my desk because my mom found them, and she's like, "Where did you get all these Cheetos from?" I'm like, "Well, school. I collected enough points so I was able to buy a bunch of Cheetos." And she's like, "These are so unhealthy. They're so bad for you. They're not good." But it didn't matter. Literally, the school gave it to us. And this was also at the special ed school was where I was really introduced to Smucker's Uncrustables, because it was during that point in my life where I was shifted from a medium income to a lower income due to my parents' divorce. And so I was put on the free and reduced lunch program. And, every day it was the same exact sandwich, the Smucker's Uncrustable PB&J sandwich, every day for 6 years then on. And also these Smucker's Uncrustables were also in the food pantry, used as behavior incentives. So that's when I was I kind of was starting to tie the two together. I'm like, there's Smucker's in the cafeteria, we're getting Smucker's as food donations for the food pantry. Why is this the only vegetarian option every day? Well, literally, it's because Smucker's Uncrustables, it's this giant corporation, and they have a partnership with the school lunch program, and they get them in giant boxes. I've seen the big boxes they get of Smucker's Uncrustables. But that's where I was introduced to them, was in the special ed school. And I was from then on, 6 years later, I'm still eating them, and they're disgusting. Those are also loaded with sugar. And that's only the vegetarian option in school. I was vegetarian, but for normal eaters on a meat-based diet, what are they getting? They're getting hamburgers and chicken tenders and French fries. This is not much better. It's literally not better. It's just it's just crap, and you're just giving these to kids and then wondering why their behavior is so disruptive. And this was a middle school. This was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we didn't get recess. Now, we didn't get recess in middle school, regular middle school either, but we need it. Okay, that's the thing. Especially as special kids, they need outdoors time. Why do you think kids can't sit still in class? It's because you're literally not giving them a break. And I remember they were actively reducing our recess time in elementary school, and the teachers were saying, "Oh, it's so we can compete with China. It's so we can compete with their test scores, and Chinese kids don't get recess, and so we'll try the same thing here." Well, hey, speaking from firsthand experience, it doesn't work, okay? In fact, I'd say give us recess up until graduation, seriously, because we need a break, and more than just a 15 to 30 minute rushed lunch break. And they rush us, it's blocked lunch, okay? It's stressful. And so, I remember, I had a special accommodation, so I didn't actually have to eat in the cafeteria because it was way too obnoxious. I mean, kids are yelling, throwing food, the bright lights above, and, this is if you look at the way Japan eats in their schools, they actually get like a meal. It's not like a rushed, like, what's it called? It feels like we're just part of the machine when you rush us like that. When you put us like in the assembly line with your trays loaded and you get this slop, it's like worse than prison, because like we're told like you can get out of this if you just get through it, where in prison it's a punishment. Why does school feel like a punishment when it should be a learning environment that's conducive and which accommodates special needs? And well, they couldn't accommodate my special needs in regular school, so that's why they put me in special ed school. And there, well, like I said, they didn't really accommodate my special needs either. It was like the new kids and the slow learners, their needs were being accommodated. But those who, for example, had more high functioning disabilities and perhaps weren't like didn't need as much help but still needed special accommodations, they weren't being addressed. They really weren't. And I want to tell you a quick story about one of my classes in 6th grade. It was this teacher, and she was African American, and all the class was black, okay? Every single one except me. So, and it was all boys in the class. There were probably 8 kids in this class, and I was the only girl, and I was the only white colored person there. And I mean, yeah, it was different, okay? I was used to being the only girl at that point and used to being in the minority due to my race, because literally the majority were black or Hispanic. And obviously, like, it's like a little bit, it makes you kind of feel like an outcast in a little bit, especially when they're all boys and they're all, like, super obnoxious, talking about, like, Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm not into all that stuff, and I'm kind of like this nerd, like high functioning and smart, and then these kids are just like off talking about video games on the, like, they had their table and I was sitting alone by myself. And this teacher, she would call me out, and she had problems herself. She really did. But she would like just, say little snippety things talking about my privilege, etc. And this was 6th grade, okay? And at this point in my life, I was conditioned to just keep my mouth shut, because it seemed whenever I spoke back, I was punished in some sort of sense. So I just kind of sucked it up. And every class, she started it with playing Happy by Pharrell Williams. This is 2014 when that song was huge. And she was, so like every day, she's like, okay, everyone out of your chairs, we're dancing to this song, Happy by Pharrell Williams. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. And then I was like, can we please not play this song? I've heard it for like 3 months nonstop. Can we just stop? And she like got really, really mad at me. Really mad at me. Like she could not control her rage. She would like scream at the top of her lungs to the 6th grader who just like asked, can you turn the song off? And just like, oh, you're so privileged, like blah, 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 blah. And it didn't do anything. And I told my teachers this, and they had a chat with this teacher, okay? Like I told my other teachers and administrators, and so they had a chat. But nothing really came of it. I think she maybe like apologized and said like, okay, we're only going to be playing this song on Fridays now. Like I said, she had problems. And so this was couple weeks later, and we were doing this like group assignment. And by the way, everything that we learned in that class was like from a video. She'd play these like, they're not crash course videos, but they're There's something like it. They're animated. I remember them clearly because I remember watching a few in normie school, but then in this specific history class, every single lesson was based on a video. So we'd be watching videos for our education, and she'd just be at her desk, and then we'd have an assignment based on that video. And these videos were really kind of elementary. Like, I even in elementary school, I was like, oh, these are for younger kids, you know? But this is what we watched in middle school in that special ed class for education. And so we were doing like a article highlighting it based on this video, and she is a little cuckoo, and she also just isn't that smart, and so we have different colored highlighters, right? And she's like, okay, so today we're gonna be learning about how to properly highlight text. And so like, she was like, okay, so grab the pink highlighter, and we read the first sentence. She's like, see, pretty important, let's highlight it. And then we read the next sentence. She's like, pretty important, right? Grab the orange highlighter, let's highlight it. And I was like, I knew how to highlight at that point, and I was like, this is not how we highlight text. Like, you highlight the important stuff. And she was highlighting every single sentence in a different color and telling us that's how we were supposed to highlight. So I'm like, excuse me, this is not what I learned in class in elementary school. So I'm not going to follow your instructions, and I'm going to highlight only what's necessary using one color. And she looked at it, and I had highlighted like the bold words and the stuff that was actually important. I was a fast learner, and I was smart. And she's like, she blew her top off. She got so mad. Like, I've never seen an adult woman so mad before. And she even cursed at me, seriously. Like, and I was in 6th grade, and this was all due to me saying, like, I'm not gonna do that. And here's the thing, in that class, we had those disruptive boys flip desks, flip chairs. She just let them, and she let them walk out, and called the security guard to come take them to the calm room. Yeah, we had a calm room, which was just a white room, like padded walls, so you wouldn't hurt yourself when you rammed into it. But yeah, she basically called the security person on me too, even though I wasn't doing anything disruptive like that, and in fact I was breaking down crying, like, seriously. And so they had someone escort me out for that. Yeah, and then they transferred me out of that class after that happened. But it's like, why did that happen to begin with? How did she get her teaching qualification? Seriously. Because I'm still literally traumatized by this. Like, not still traumatized, but it's still, like, every time I tell that story, I'm like, I can't believe that happened. In an environment that's supposed to be helping me, that happened. Like, first of all, our curriculum was years behind, and then second of all, we have teachers who can't even control their own behavior, telling students that, you know, they're wrong, or that the way they're doing stuff is wrong when in fact it's not, and like, just out of control. And I had pretty good control, and I had really good behavior, and that's why I was always able to get all those prizes and snacks. And I just don't agree with that whole point-based system to begin with, because we had a sheet. It was called like our behavior sheet for the day. We got it every morning, and you'd start out with 0, and it had like 7 or 8 columns for all the classes you had that day. So if you were good in your first period class, they would give you full points. So you get 10 points for that day. Like, it was like based on checklists. Like, you got 1 point if you had good behavior, 1 point if you did your work, 1 point if you were silent and no disruptions. But it totaled up to 10 for each column. And then if you got to 95 to 100 at the end of the day, you got like a prize. And most kids seriously didn't make it to like 40. Seriously, but I always got like hundreds, 97, you know, etc. Like, always. And then I just remember in this specific class, she gave me a 0 for like everything. And I was like, I was like so heartbroken by that, because I was like, I did everything. I even raised my hand and like said this nicely when I was calling her out about her being wrong about the highlighting, and yet still, like, she was the one who flipped her shit and gave me zeros and told me to get out. Seriously? Come on, FCPS, what the hell? Like, I was in 6th grade at this point, and I had a disability. It's not like I'm in 6th grade wanting to talk out about this experience I had then, and I really wish I did. But here I am now, and I'm asking, like, what the hell? Like, what did you subject me to? Seriously, I'm so pissed off at you. Like, you couldn't have, like, at least helped me? Like, instead, you take me away from all my friends in elementary school, and then you put me in this middle school where I'm the only white kid and the only girl, and then you're, like, telling me I'm stupid and retarded and all this shit. Like, I've heard it all. Like, I've heard literally every fucking thing. And it's like, sorry, I'm not trying to get pissed, but, like, I'm just really, really disappointed in you. Because you could have helped me, okay? You could have actually helped me by doing something instead of, like, torturing me. Because every day in this school felt like torture, and it felt like prison. It really felt like prison. It's like, what did I do to deserve this? All I'm doing is being myself, and you're telling me that that's not good enough. And you're telling all these kids that they're not good enough by themselves, and they need medication, and they need diagnosis, and they need special treatment, when in fact you're just putting them in front of a screen and then telling them that that's education, because it's not. These kids don't need technology in the classrooms, period. They need it out of the classroom. None of these kids need technology, even normal kids, especially not special kids. Seriously, it causes more problems than you'd think, and we already get loaded enough, you know, outside of the classroom. You come home and it's just, you know, screens. Most of these kids were from underprivileged walks of life, and they came home to a TV and video games and more of this crap junk food that the government funds, you know, for like free and reduced eating, and it's only perpetuating the cycle. And what you're doing is actively dumbing kids down, and you're telling the non-conforming, out-of-the-box thinkers that they must conform and think inside the box, or else. And I did conform to get out of there. I just shut my mouth, and I just didn't say anything so I could get out, because it seemed like every time I opened my mouth, they had a problem with what I said. So, kept my mouth shut and got out of special ed. And let me tell you, I saw some comments in the last video saying, like, oh, like, I had IEPs and it was, like, they helped me and all that. Well, great. I had an IEP too, but I wasn't in a regular normal school with an IEP. I was taken out of regular normal school where I had an IEP and then put into a special ed school. So there is a difference there. Most of, like, the school was kind of separated based on learning disabilities and physical disabilities, like people who really needed, like, assistance walking and hearing, you know, like deaf and blind. And then the kids with learning disabilities like ADHD, autism, Tourette, etc. And so I remember my very first day there. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to cut this out kind of soon and start a new one. But I remember my very first day there. The kid in the cafeteria, he looked at my water, okay? He said, "That's ADHD water." And I thought about that for over a decade, okay? Because I was like, what? Like, and today it clicked, okay? Today I was thinking about it, and it clicked. I'm like, well, that wasn't ADHD water. That was just regular water, okay? You're telling all these kids, like, you're ADHD, you're autism, you're this, you're that, you are ADHD. No, they are just regular. You're the one with the problem. You're the one labeling it. You're the weird one, okay? It's not ADHD, it's just regular, bruh.